Welcome to the Thrift Store Kitchen Review, where I test all the weird junk from the thrift store so you don't have to. Welcome to this week's edition of the Thrift Store Kitchen Review. I've already done a couple of episodes featuring pizza cookers. The first one I did was the Pizzazz by Presto, that rotating countertop thing. It wasn't very good for making fresh pizza, although it was honestly quite great for frozen. Then I did the Pizza Dome, and that thing was just really large and really weird. Now, one common problem both of those had when cooking fresh pizza is that they just didn't seem to get hot enough to really do the job. But in this episode, I found something that might actually be able to do that job with plenty of heat. And that would be this, the Ceramic Countertop Pizza Oven by Colston. And I picked this up at a Goodwill in Kennesaw, Georgia for only $12.99. Alright, so let's go ahead and examine our pizza oven. Up here you have the two dials. You have a temperature dial that goes between 1 and 5. Honestly, I would prefer that they just use the actual degrees, because that would be much more helpful. Then you have a mechanical timer up here. You have your on light. Then you open it up. You have a large heating coil up here. Then you have this ceramic stone, which is removable. And then you have another heating coil below. Now, the ceramic stone is really only to be removed for cleaning. You can't actually make the pizza on the ceramic stone and put it in the heated oven, because when you're cooking with ceramic, you have to heat it up with the oven and let it cool down with the oven, or else it will break. Now, there's one thing that was supposed to come with it that unfortunately I did not receive, besides the manual, of course, and that would be the pizza paddles. Now, for this, because it's a very specific shape and it closes, you can't just use a standard pizza paddle unless you're very accurate with it. Basically, you need these. Now, unfortunately, these knockoffs I had to order from Amazon don't make a perfect circle, but basically you bring the pizza in on it and then you pull them away to drop them on the stone. So I'm about to whip up some fresh pizzas and we're gonna try this out. Now, before we start cooking our pizza, we do need to preheat the machine. The manual said to turn it up to about 4 and let it preheat for about 10 minutes. So we're going to do that, and once it's heated up, we'll put some pizza in there. Okay, so the machine should be sufficiently preheated by now. So what I need to do is I need to open it up. Definitely very hot, and right here I have the pizza. And I'm going to carefully slide it off the paddles and close this. And it should only need about 5 to 6 minutes to cook. Now, for the first pizza, I'm doing basic fresh mozzarella, tomato sauce, and Italian seasoning. So what we'll do in just a couple minutes is we'll open the top and see what that pizza's looking like. All right, it's been a couple minutes. Let's take a look. You can see that cheese is starting to melt. The crust is starting to bake. Now, the one thing with this one you really want to be careful with, because those heating coils sit quite close, is if you see that pizza start to bubble up at all, you really want to pop that with a knife as soon as possible. Now, this dough, I handled it pretty heavily beforehand to get all the gases out, but it's something you definitely want to watch for, because if it bubbles up to that coil, that could be a fire hazard. Anyway, a couple more minutes and this pizza should be ready. All right, next check, I do want to pop that bubble because it is getting a little bit high. And then the pizza does look almost done. I probably could have done it another minute. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little on there so this one can finish. And then shortly I'll be ready to do the next pizza after I pull this one out. All right, so let's take another look. That pizza looks done. That actually looks pretty good. Now, I don't know if I'd want to use those wooden paddles to pull it out, So I'm using my giant pizza peel to do that. I'm going to go put this out of the way, and then I'm going to go get the next pizza we're going to cook. All right, time for pizza number 2. Essentially the same thing, except this time with pepperoni. Now, they did say getting stuff on the stone was normal, and basically you can just scrape it off later. So I got my pepperoni pizza on there, going to set it to 6 minutes again, and we'll check it in a few. All right, now it's been only about a minute, but I looked under the window and I did see that bubble right there. And like I said, you want to get ahead of those before they get too big. Let me make sure that's popped all the way. There we go. Gonna let it keep cooking. All right, it should be about halfway done, so let's take another look. It's looking good. A little bit of the liquid is spilling onto the ceramic, but other than that, it looks fine, and I can just clean that up later. So a few more minutes on this one, and we'll be having some pizza. All right, should be about done. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get that out because that pizza, that cheese is kind of leaking at this point, and I don't want to start a fire. Looks like the pepperoni did shift a little, but it'll be all right. So let me go ahead and get this out of the way. I'll unplug the machine, and then we're gonna try these. All right, so I got my 2 pizzas right here. The cheese has been out of the oven for longer, so it's cooler. So I'm going to try that one first. You look, it's got a good crust underneath. Probably could have gotten that a little bit darker, but the slice looks good. So let me take a bite of this one. The whole piece of mozzarella came off when I bit into it, but that was honestly pretty good. Put that there. Now, the pepperoni is definitely a little bit less done than I liked, but that's because the stuff kept sliding off. I didn't want it to become a fire hazard, but let me take a bite of this one regardless. Honestly, that was also quite tasty. Now, I'm not used to using this machine. I'm more used to baking it in the regular oven, but with some trial and error, I have the feeling this thing could be pretty good. So I'm going to get the pizza oven cleaned up, and then we're going to give it one more test. So we found out that the Colston Ceramic Pizza Maker can make some pretty good pizzas. Now it's time to find out, will it glizz? I scraped off the excess material from where those burn spots are, where the stuff ended up on the pan. Now from the manual, it says the burn spots are normal, and over time that the ceramic plate will collect those, and they add flavor to the pizza. You just really have to scrape off the excess material. So I'm going to put the 2 hot dogs in here and close the lid. Now I have the feeling this is going to cook rather quickly, so in a couple minutes we'll be back to see how those hot dogs are looking. The hot dogs have been cooking for only about a minute, but I can see through the window they're already starting to get color. So let me go ahead and roll these over. You can see they're leaving their mark on the ceramic plate, but that's fine. Close it again. We'll check it again in a couple minutes. Time to take another look. Yeah, those hot dogs are definitely cooking. Now, you do see the spots where stuff spilled onto it. You can see there's a lot of smoke coming off of there. So luckily these hot dogs are about done, because I really want to get this unplugged as soon as possible, but probably in another minute or so, we'll be taking those hot dogs off and seeing how they taste. All right, let's open it up. Yeah, those hot dogs definitely look done, so let me go ahead and unplug this machine. Put them in buns. Let me crack this one open, see how the inside feels. Yeah, that is definitely done. So let me take a bite and see how it tastes. Pretty good. It actually gets a little bit of flavor from the ceramic stone. I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and eat these hot dogs, and then I'll be back to give you my final verdict on the Colston Ceramic Pizza Maker. So, what's my final verdict on the Colston Ceramic Pizza Maker? Well, honestly, it's a great product. Now, were my pizzas that came out perfect? No, it takes a lot of trial and error to figure out a machine like this. I normally make pizza in my oven, cooking it on a baking steel, and it took a lot of trial and error to get my pizzas where I like them. And honestly, I've gotten it down to where I can consistently produce a great result. Now, this product is basically a knockoff of the Paisano by Granite Stone, which is probably the most well-known version of this type of device. Now, I've never found a Paisano used. If I did at the right price, I would absolutely pick it up. However, for what seems to be a less expensive knockoff, it's a very good product. It's not overly difficult to use, even though there is a higher difficulty curve than simply setting it and forgetting it. It seems to work consistently well. Now, the only two things I wish is that instead of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dial, that it would just tell you what the temperatures are. Also, I do wish it had a digital timer instead of a mechanical, but what can you do? It works just fine. It makes pizzas, it makes them quickly, it heats up quickly, and it comes out quite good. Now, with it heating quickly, that's honestly huge, because when I do it in my oven on the pizza steel, before you can put the pizza in, you really need to run the oven for about an hour and a half, because to get it to a super high temperature, it takes about half an hour to heat up, and then you want the steel to preheat for about an hour before you put the pizza on it. So this does speed up the process. Overall, if you ever find one of these, especially at a good price, I absolutely would recommend picking it up. Great product. This one's a keeper. Well, thanks for joining us on this edition of the Thrift Store Kitchen Review. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and TikTok, both linked in the description below. Tell your friends about us. Leave us a line down there in the comment section. Get out there and support your local thrift store, and have a wonderful day.